Last month I did 31 days of crystals and I highlighted a different crystal every day. And when I did agate, I touched on the fact that moss agate isn't actually agate and said I would come back to that because it's like a whole separate video. So today is that day. So when we get into agates, we also have to talk about chalcedony and jaspers, and all of it goes back to quartz. So it's kind of like a big family tree. So quartz, we're used to seeing, clusters, individual like terminations, or just giant hunks of that material that then would get cut and polished. And quartz comes in two ways. One would be, solid quartz, and then the other way would be little tiny microcrystalline quartz. So microcrystalline quartz is going to then form chalcedony, and pure chalcedony would be white. When it has inclusions, then we end up with different materials. Some of those different crystals would be like this sea jasper or like this coral flower agate. If it is translucent, then you could start grouping it into the category of just either chalcedony or agates. If it is not translucent, so like it's solid, you can't have light shine through it, then it would be more of a jasper. And you can also have like the combination of the two. So like this is an ocean jasper palmstone, and it's going to have some clear bits of chalcedony. It's going to have some crystallized quartz, and then it's going to have opaque areas of the jasper. So a material like my plume agate would actually be like a multicolored jasper because it doesn't have the translucency, and it doesn't have banding, which is common with agates. And when we're talking about banding, we are talking about something like this, where you get defined bands throughout the crystal where you can see all those different layers forming. By definition, agate should have banding. Take that a step further. This is pistachio calcite, so it's not agate or anything that we're talking about, but it does have some really light white bands in it, and you can see blue versions of this being called blue onyx, which is actually blue banded calcite. But when you have like a red jasper or black and that has the white banding, then it is onyx. So let's circle all of that back around to our moss agate. So moss agate does not have any banding normally. It's going to have a very organic, mossy looking patterning to it, and that is just due to all sorts of different inclusions in there, which like you can get tree agate, moss agate, and you can get colorful moss agate, which is going to be something similar to this but with different colored inclusions. And because there's no banding, that's why it's not technically an agate, although it is commonly referred to as moss agate, and it's pretty standard. Like people know that's what you're talking about if you were to say moss agate. The green inclusion is usually from chlorite, and like this piece here, you can actually see this was crystallized quartz. You can see all those little pockets of the crystals. And then we would have some of the chalcedony around the edges, and then we have that chlorite inclusion that is in the center of those. The other thing too is just because it's banded doesn't necessarily mean it's agate. So this does have some translucency to it. It is got some quartzy veins and some chalcedony in there, so this would be still an agate. Whereas if it was a banded jasper, that would be completely opaque. You wouldn't be able to see through it. And because all of these materials are essentially quartz or quartz based, you can have agate and chalcedony and crystallized quartz all together in one piece, which then, I don't know, I call this one a colorful moss agate, which looks an awful lot like this piece that was sold as a ocean jasper. So ultimately you have like quartz, and then you have jasper, chalcedony, agates. They're all related. They're kind of like cousins because they all share some of the same basic DNA when it comes to being based out of quartz. And then depending on the different inclusions, other minerals that are there, you're going to have different growth patterns and different outcomes in the colors. you.